Hello everybody, welcome to the video. You know what I'm doing here based on the title alone, right? I'm not going to treat you like a simpleton. We're going to go in order of worst to best in all of the graphic novels I've read this year, all 10 of them. There are some honourable mentions of stuff that I didn't finish, that I read some of. But yeah, let's just get into it. Number 10 that I have on my list here is Deadpool 2099. Now, I'm a fan of a lot of the 2099 stuff that originally came out in the 90s. Like, I read some of the Hulk stuff, a little bit of the Spider-Man stuff, some of the Punisher stuff. There was a whole bunch of Doctor Doom 2099 that I read, and I just really like the artwork in particular was great. All the cityscape was amazing, you know what I mean? It had that futuristic, like dystopian futuristic, you know what I mean? It was nearly Blade Runner-esque. It was a great vehicle for just 90s extreme over the top art and redesigns of all these costumes and characters. So yeah, I liked that in particular. So going into this, I've also been a fan of Deadpool comics for years. I got into Deadpool by accident. I just liked the X-Men movies when I was a kid, so I picked up the comics that said Wolverine on them, and they were packaged with Deadpool, so there'd be 2 issues of a Wolverine comic and then 1 issue of Deadpool at the end. So I became a Deadpool fan. I read a lot of Deadpool comics, and this just underwhelmed me a lot. I don't know. It wasn't funny. It was too serious. It was about Deadpool. The love of his life, he lost her, she's dead, but I don't want to maybe not spoil it or whatever, but he's sad about the loss of, I'm going to call her Shekinah. I think it's Shikla, but I'm going to call her Shekinah out of disrespect. I don't know, it doesn't strike me as what Deadpool would do, fall in love with this vampire monster woman and be so hung up on her, you know what I mean? Like, the art, the backgrounds were very bland, I thought, in the art, you know what I mean? The backgrounds were a lot of the time like just solid colors, you know what I mean? And that's just something in particular I remember about the 2099 comics was the backgrounds, you know what I mean? But yeah, I don't know, maybe that's just one particular love story with Deadpool that I'm not interested in. Like, my experience with reading Deadpool would be he takes off his mask and people scream and laugh at how ugly he is and run away, you know what I mean? That's kind of he's the butt of the joke in his physical appearance. But yeah, I guess he can fall in love with a vampire woman. It's just I read a whole lot of comics where she was kind of horseshoed. What's that term? Not horseshoed in, crowbarred in, you know what I mean? She was shoehorned, that's the word. She was shoehorned into a lot of Deadpool comics in like 2016, 17 I was reading. So I just got sick of reading about her, honestly. And then when it turned out she was like a central focus, him and her and their children are a central focus of Deadpool 2099. So I like the design of Deadpool himself. Old Man Deadpool, it's kind of cool. They could have just called it Old Man Deadpool. That would have been, well, Old Man Deadpool 2099. That's what there you go. There's a title. You have that from me. So yeah, that's my number 10. Number 9 is, this is a new run of Superior Spider-Man. So I read a lot of Superior Spider-Man back when the initial run came out. So that idea is the backstory of that is that it's Doc Ock. Doc Ock's brain is in Spider-Man's body for whatever reason, and nobody knows, and he's just continuing on as a Spider-Man business, but in a kind of an increasingly villainous way. And it's funny because like he's getting worse, he's progressively getting more evil, and like the people around him are just like kind of side-eyeing, being like, well, it's Spider-Man, you know what I mean? He saved the world so many times, we should probably trust this guy. So that was like a whole aspect of it that I really liked. And I like Spider-Man without him pulling the punches, you know what I mean? You take the safeties off, so like when he hits somebody he could like break all their bones, you know what I mean? Like, that's what I said that in one of my Spider-Man Let's Play videos, is that, you know, when Spider-Man is fighting somebody, he could one-shot them. I'm thinking like 9 times out of 10 it could just be like one punch and they're on the floor. But it's like, I don't know, he's jumping around and he's making jokes a lot of the time, and that's one thing that they kind of cut out of Superior Spider-Man, is that he's a lot more drats, you fiend, you dastardly cur, you know what I mean? He's giving, it's like Doc Ock's dialogue coming out of Peter Parker. But yeah, to talk about this specific graphic novel that I read, yeah, I think like there wasn't enough. I thought it was going to be all flashbacks to when that was happening. I didn't think they were going to bring Doc Ock's brain back into Peter Parker's body in this continuity, whatever's happening now. But there's a little bit of flashback stuff, which is fun. But then there's stuff of Doc Ock is, Peter Parker's in his own body pretending to be Superior Spider-Man, pretending that he is Doc Ock's brain in Peter Parker's body, and he's talking to Doc Ock throughout it. Again, I don't want to get into too many spoilers, but it's a very convoluted, complicated thing. I wish it was just a story of when he was the Superior Spider-Man. Give me 6 issues of that. There was one cool issue at the end that had Spider Boy or Spider Kid. I can't remember that character's name. I like that character. Is like Robin to Batman. That issue is kind of fun. The Fantastic Four show up and they're like, what are you doing? Bro, you're being really mean and evil right now. And he's like, shut up, damn all of you. But yeah, it could have been better. It could have been better, so that's why it's my number 9. Number 8 is Marvel Zombies. So this is written by the same guy that wrote the Walking Dead comic books. And I like a good portion of the Walking Dead comic books. The first 6 issues of that are genuinely like a masterpiece of graphic novel, like history, you know what I mean? I love those. And then very similar to the show, the guy that was doing the art was taking too long, so they got someone who would do it quicker and easier, and then the art stayed consistently kind of mid to bad, if I'm honest, for the whole rest of its run. I read like maybe 11 volumes of it. They were in the prison for so long, but so Robert Kirkman is that guy's name. He also wrote Invincible, for what it's worth. I've never read any of Invincible. I heard the animation in the show gets worse, so that's why I never got around to it, but so his run on Marvel Zombies, it's kind of like, so the conceit is the zombies, if they have fed recently, if they've eaten, then they have cognitive ability, so they're not just like brains, you know what I mean? They're able to speak, they're able to think tactfully, you know what I mean? They're able to like reason with each other. So for the majority of the comic book, you have a team of Avengers that are zombies, but like that, it's mostly about Galactus and the Silver Surfer coming to Earth, but kind of on the backdrop of there has been a zombie apocalypse. It's I don't know, and it ends on a cliffhanger. And I thought he started something at the start about Robert Kirkman had an intro little paragraph that he wrote about how he didn't want to be the zombie guy, didn't want to be known as the zombie guy, and it's like, maybe, you know, maybe don't agree to do Marvel Zombies then, you know what I mean? And if you're going to do it, maybe that's why he didn't want to make it more zombie-esque, more like The Walking Dead. Maybe I thought it would be more like The Walking Dead with Captain America in it. Maybe that's just an L on me for having the wrong expectations of what it was going to be, but I definitely wasn't expecting him to start a whole ongoing series the way he was talking about it. I don't want to be the zombie guy, but I'm going to write 32 issues of Marvel Zombies instead of just a tight 6-issue run. Ends on a cliffhanger. The Avengers are going off to other planets to eat them with their zombie lust. So I guess there's that they're kind of evil in the sense that they're eating people, but for the most part they're just trying to conquer Galactus and the Silver Surfer. So number 8, yeah, let's move on. So number 7 on my list is The Predator versus Wolverine. So I don't know why I've put this so high retrospectively now that I think about it. I think this should have been my number 10, but listen, we're going with the way it is in the notes app. This, I think it could have been better. The art style is very wildly, so like the first issue and the stuff that's set in the present day, it's non-chronological. It cuts back and forth between like the final encounter between the two and then all of their encounters, because it's like the same Predator has been hunting Wolverine for years throughout his life. So we see different eras. The different eras are drawn by different artists, which is kind of fun, you know what I mean? Some eras are better than others. The present day final confrontation is great. There's one particular moment where there's like some stuff going on with a hand around a wrist, and it looks like AI to me. I don't know. It's a very recent comic book. AI could have been. I don't know. I didn't look it up. That's just a observation that I made. I think my main thing, without getting into too many spoilers, I guess, I just thought there would be, it is kind of graphically violent, but I thought that Wolverine would be more violent and more of a killer in it. I thought in the final confrontation and throughout the years, he never like chops a finger off of the Predator, or like, you know what I mean, maybe cuts his dreads, or like, I thought you could have the Predator with a prosthetic leg like the Blade Runner, or you could have the Predator with just like a fucking hook hand, and it just has the two little like claws that he has on his hand normally, and he can just use those claws to press a trigger to set off the bomb on his other hand, you know what I mean? So like, the Predator got away unscathed so many times. There was a couple of times where it was like, and a text box will come up and just like, and then the Predator escaped somehow, you know what I mean? It's like, they just wanted him to fight Wolverine in Japan, and then while he was with the X-Men, and then while he was with Task Force X. I don't know. This wasn't great, to be honest. I have a bunch of other Marvel, Fox, Disney comic books, like a couple of Predator issues. I have an Alien graphic novel. I'm not looking forward to those based on this. This is what the 20th century, because they put the 20th Century Fox logo on it, even though I don't think that's even a company anymore. That's that's just a subsidiary of Disney, so I don't get, you know what I mean? But yeah, that's my number 7. Number 6, I'm seeing a bit of a trend emerging here, is Deadpool versus Wolverine. I think it was just called Wolverine Origins issues 1 through 6. So this is illustrated by Steve Dillon, the guy that illustrated Preacher, one of my favorite comic book series. I love Preacher. Yeah, this was kind of fun. This is what I was expecting the Deadpool and Wolverine movie to be like. I did a podcast about Deadpool and Wolverine, kind of a little bit about that, and I wasn't happy with that movie. I bought this comic before the movie came out, but it's basically just the two of them going at it. It's just Deadpool trying to kill Wolverine the whole time, and Wolverine just kind of on the back foot the whole time, because Deadpool is so psychotic in it and so driven, you know what I mean? And he's not that he's a step ahead, it's just that he catches Wolverine unawares most of the time, you know what I mean? So I remember reading one issue of this years and years and years ago. There's an issue where Deadpool has Wolverine in water, and he's like, your skeleton is going to keep you in the water and you're just going to be drowning. I was like, is that going to kill him? I don't know. There's an appearance from Daken, Wolverine's son. That was a character that I always liked. He's in the Dark Avengers and Siege. That's I just accidentally gave a spoiler alert to one of my other numbers, but yeah, it was fun. I don't know, it was cartoonishly violent. It's my favorite type of characterization of Deadpool, in which it's like, it's funny but in a dark way, you know what I mean? Like, he's not cracking wise and like Bugs Bunny. He's more like Jack Nicholson Joker, kind of, something like that. I don't know. I think Deadpool, very certain writers have to do him, because most people, I think, can't do it properly. Same with like the Punisher. It's just certain writers know how to do the dialogue and the inner monologue of that character properly, and other writers just don't get it. This, I think, got it. The ending is a bit of a cop-out, to be honest. It includes an issue, the first ever appearance of Deadpool at the very end. Just, you know, more bang for your buck. Rob Liefeld is a hack fraud, in my humble opinion. But yeah, that's my number 6, I don't know. Number 5, Gotham by Gaslight. So this, I think, would be higher on the list if it wasn't for the fact that, like, the way this graphic novel is packaged, it makes it seem like the Gotham by Gaslight story is going to be like lengthy and it's going to be multiple issues, when it is really the length of like an annual, maybe not even the length of an annual. It's slightly longer than a normal issue, but it's not the length of an annual. Yeah, I don't know. There's a bunch of other stuff with that character in the multiverse. You know, the Batman from Victorian England, what he went on to do. But I just wasn't interested in that. I wanted the Jack the Ripper versus Batman story, and it was over very quickly. And then a bunch of other multiversal stuff, most of which I wasn't really that interested in. There was one where he was just fighting this guy on like a hot air balloon, and that issue I remember liking, but the rest of it was just totally forgettable. There's some Shazam issues in there. There's some multiverse where he crosses over with other people on a Crisis on Infinite Earths type situation, but the story itself, the actual Batman versus From Hell, Jack the Ripper, it starts off kind of funny. Batman's having a conversation with Sigmund Freud. I don't know why that seems funny to me, because Batman's a very psychologically coded character. All of his villains are crazy people, you know what I mean? He's it's all about trauma, and he's sitting there. I wish he was my only gripe is that he wasn't lying in one of those couches, one of those therapy couches, lying back when he was talking to Freud. He was just having a normal conversation. Yeah, that would just be my main thing. If you're going to get this in a physical copy, just be aware that just flick through it first. That's a thing that I should have learned this year that I didn't. But yeah, that's my number 5, I think. My number 4 is Superman Red Son. So I read this years and years and years ago, probably like when Man of Steel came out. I read it like digitally, and I haven't read many comics that way, but I don't like doing it. So this year I bought the physical graphic novel version of it, read the whole thing. It's by Mark Millar, who wrote Old Man Logan, that I read and I remember liking back at the time, and he wrote Civil War, that I read and liked at the time years ago. And yeah, same with this. When I read it years ago, I liked it. I don't know, on my reread there's kind of leaps in logic at the very start of every issue. It's like, and now there's like, he's kind of under the influence of Brainiac a little bit. I'm hopping into spoilers here. It's a very old story, but it's like, I don't know. It's what if Superman was landed in communist Russia and he was a puppet of Stalin instead of truth, justice, and the American way, you know, and a Kansas farm boy or whatever type of a character. And it's mostly just that. He's just like I love the earth and I want to save people. But like the start of every issue, there's one in particular where it's like, and now Superman is putting brain implants in anyone that dissents his opinion. And then it cuts back to Superman and he's just like helping someone out of a burning building. And it's like, what? And it turns out that that's orchestrated by Brainiac. Maybe I'm just spoiling this one. There's a great moment at the end that I really like when Lex Luthor shows up. And he's like, right, me and you, Superman, we're locking minds, we're locking anchors, we're gonna have a conversation, we're gonna talk it out right now. And Brainiac intervenes and like removes Luthor from the situation. He's like, sorry, Superman, I couldn't let that happen. He's a level whatever intellect on the planet. He could have talked you into suicide within 11 minutes. And Superman's like, oh my god, that's how that ends. Oh my god, it's really funny. I don't know. I thought that was great. I feel like that's very Lex Luthor and Superman coded. I don't know, I feel like that gets it. That gets the dichotomy there. That was funny. But otherwise, yeah, this has made me not want to revisit Old Man Logan or Civil War, because it's like now that I'm thinking about things a little bit more when I read them, you know what I mean? So that's my number 5. So number 3, spoiler alert, I brought it up earlier, Siege. This is probably way too high on the list. Again, with all these like classic stories that are on this list, I probably shouldn't have Siege this high, but I don't know, I liked it. I read this, I have some nostalgia for this particular storyline. Norman Osborn has taken over the Avengers and he's in the Iron Patriot suit and he's taken over like an Iron Man type role, and everyone, it's similar to Superior Spider-Man. It's like he's getting increasingly evil and everyone's side-eyeing it, and he has assembled the Dark Avengers that has like Venom as Spider-Man. It has Daken as Wolverine's son. So yeah, it's all tying together this whole episode. But yeah, it's just the story of Asgard is displaced onto Earth, and Norman Osborn wants to invade Asgard, basically, and he does. But it's kind of the culmination of the whole Dark Avengers storyline, and it's like the end of the Norman Osborn arc as well, that I read a lot of, and it's by Brian Michael Bendis, who he's written a lot of stuff that I liked. I can't remember specifically offhand other than Siege, but I think he came up with Miles Morales Spider-Man, and I have a 6-issue graphic novel of Miles Morales written by Brian Michael Bendis, and I'm looking forward to reading that now. But yeah, so that's inexplicably that's my like number 3. God, it's like, I love Thor. Thor is in it. There's really, and the thing is as well, it has that thing of, when it was originally published in magazine format, you could open it up and see the splash page. But in this one, because it's a graphic novel, you can't see the splash page. And that would normally deduct so many points, but there wasn't that many deducted from me because of that. It has Sentry in it. The Sentry, that's kind of the culmination of his story as well. So I think that's why I liked it, because these were a lot of plot threads that I had read bits and pieces of growing up, but I finally found this graphic novel that was like, here is the concise ending. Has a flashback to like when the Dark Avengers were in their height before this whole Siege event. That's the last issue, and I liked that as well. That was fun. There's like a new Avengers team of good guys trying to combat that, you know what I mean? There's a resistance going on there. But yeah, that's my number 3. I feel like it shouldn't be as high, but look, I've explained it enough. Number 2, so this is an Alan Moore compilation, let's say, a collection of Alan Moore issues of Superman comics. So it has Whatever Happened to Man of Tomorrow, it has a Swamp Thing issue, and it has For the Man Who Has Everything. So it's like all 3 of Superman's Alan Moore Superman run. I don't know, maybe he did more. Alan Moore. I've read a lot of Alan Moore. I like his work. I'm just not a massive Superman fan, I don't think, so maybe it's just not clicking with me. I did enjoy this. I enjoyed the Swamp Thing issue the most. In that one, Superman is sick and Swamp Thing has to help him with the power of nature or whatever. It's great. I love all the Swamp Thing. I read all of Alan Moore's Swamp Thing. It was great, so maybe that's why I love that so much. But you know, the For the Man Who Has Everything, that's like Superman retiring kind of a thing. It's like his end days, and it's wrapping up all of his stories. Lex Luthor and Brainiac are in that as well. It ends similarly to... It ends in a way, it's a really old story, so I'm going to spoil it. It ends where he depowers himself and lives a normal life, but him and Lois Lane have a baby, and it's implied that the baby has Superman powers. And I was like, that's terrifying. Imagine you're two normal human beings and you have a baby with the powers of Superman. What are you going to do with that? But then, you know, that's what Ma and Pa Kent, Jonathan and Martha Kent, were on the farm with baby Superman. So I suppose, you know, maybe again it's just I haven't read a lot of Superman, so it just didn't click with me. For the Man Who Has Everything, that was adapted into a cartoon, and apparently that's the only like Alan Moore thing that he adaptation that he appreciates. He had a hand in writing it, but it's Superman's birthday, and they're trying to figure out what to get him for his birthday for the Man Who Has Everything. You know what I mean? He's Superman, and shenanigans ensue. It's very much a contained little one issue thing. A villain shows up, he puts Superman in a trance, and it's like Superman sees everything he ever wanted, like in his fantasies, and it's like Krypton never exploded, he's there. But ultimately, you know, it ends whatever. The Batman and Robin and Wonder Woman are there, and I think Robin is the one ultimately that saves the day, which is cool. But there's a really cool moment that I think about. Krypto the Superdog is in this as well, actually. Krypto the Superdog I think is in the first issue I was talking about here. Krypto the Superdog is in that, and it's great. He sacrifices his life. He's a good boy. He's a good doggo, and I'm sad that what happened to him. But Alan Moore, I trust you. But yeah, there's a really good moment in the Superman birthday issue where he smashes through a wall, and the way Alan Moore writes it, it's like breaking the sound barrier 500 times over, and with the wind of like just the way he describes the force at which Superman can break through a wall. It's like that's the type of shit that I want when it comes to Superman, is like exploring the sheer power of that character, you know what I mean? Rather than trying to humanize him, I want that kind of more godlike element, you know what I mean? That's what we kind of got in Man of Steel. Everyone hated Man of Steel. I didn't like it at the time. I haven't watched it in years. I'm not going to comment on it, but yeah, so that's my number 3. My number 1 is... Okay, this one's hard to justify. It's this omnibus I got of Punisher versus the Marvel Universe. What I thought it was, again, like Gotham by Gaslight, I thought it was going to be the Punisher kills the Marvel Universe story. When I picked it up, I thought that's what this is. Brought it home. It's actually a collection of multiple stories in which Punisher was trying to be taken down by other members of the Marvel Universe. So it's an omnibus collection of that, of disconnected stories, and the story itself, right, is written by Garth Ennis, the main story that I bought it for. Again, it's maybe the length of an annual, 50 pages, and it's not great. It's kind of a letdown. It was less creative than I thought it would be, but it was very early Garth Ennis. It was the 80s. I prefer the Deadpool Kills the Marvel Universe. I read that, and then I read the Deadpool Kills the Marvel Universe again. Both of those are great, and they were inspired by this, so I guess maybe they expanded on stuff that Garth Ennis couldn't do with comic book censorship in the 80s, possibly Comics Code Authority, I don't know. There's one where Luke Cage and Iron Fist are trying to take him down, that's written by John Ostrander, who wrote the Suicide Squad original run, and I like that Suicide Squad original run. I like that particular Punisher team up. There's one moment in that where they're like, they do a shootout. Luke Cage and Power Man is Luke Cage. Hold on, what's the other guy's name? Iron Fist. Forgettable fucking character. They're working with the Punisher for a minute, right? And they burst in, and Punisher's shooting people and all, and then Luke Cage is like, wait, I thought you were going to use rubber bullets, and he was like, yeah, that's what I told you or whatever, but he apparently was using real bullets. That was kind of funny. There's another one where it's like MCU characters. It's like the Punisher's in the MCU and the Avengers are trying to take him down, and that they have multiple cop-outs in that, where characters just talk it out with Punisher and decide, not like Thor and Wolverine, characters that could just fuck him up, they just talk it out with him and hash it out. It's like, come on, this is a comic book about the Punisher. I want to see explosions and gore and skeletons and blood and guts and eyeballs, you know what I mean, all sorts. But the reason why this is my number 1 favorite comic that I've read this year is a little storyline called Confederacy of Dunces, also written by Garth Ennis. He's written a lot of Punisher stuff that I like. He's written Preacher, which I referenced earlier. It's basically Daredevil, Spider-Man and Wolverine are teaming up to try and take down the Punisher. Nothing new to the rest of the whole comic book, but it's just the way he writes it. It's really funny. There's a detective that's trying to take down the Punisher called Soap, I believe, and he's just a drunk and he's in a bar and he's pathetic and he's being berated by the barman the whole time, and it's very funny. It's very funny, and the way like the Punisher kind of gets out of it in the end by just being he unleashes the Hulk on them essentially. But that's the very ending. There's one particular moment I like where they're trying to like take him in a diner, the three of them, and like whatever happens, Spider-Man ends up signing autographs, right? And Punisher just like elbows Wolverine in the nose. Wolverine goes crazy. He's like, fuck this, I'm gonna kill this guy now. Daredevil's like, no, we can't kill him, that makes us as bad as him. Spider-Man's still signing the autographs. Punisher just walks out and leaves. It's brilliant. And the way he takes down the Hulk after unleashing him, because this is apparently a continuity where the Hulk is just Madman Hulk and there's no controlling him. He's been feeding the Hulk stew when he was Bruce Banner for days, the Punisher, and then the stew turns out to have had little bits of C4 in it, so he just blows up the C4 and the pain is so bad that the Hulk turns back into Bruce Banner. Always some bullshit with the Hulk character. Even in World War Hulk, one of my favourite comics ever, there's some bullshit in that as well. But yeah, Garth Ennis Punisher is always I think going to be top of the tree for me. Any top 10 list is going to have Garth Ennis Punisher up there. Yeah, Confederacy of Dunces. You can see Rich Evans talk about that in the Red Letter Media video on the season 1 review of The Boys. Honorable mentions, I forgot to do those. I should have done those earlier. So I read some issues of the second compendium of Hellboy, maybe like 5 or 6 issues, not that many, but I like it. I'm really liking the art style. They're doing a lot to try and catch me up with what previously happened, but I feel like I need to watch the new movie, the 2019 one. Apparently that covers a lot of the comics, so I feel like I need to watch that to get the context. They're doing a lot of previously on, and I'm kind of missing a little bit of it, but it's kind of self-contained as well. Little stories of like Abe Sapien and Hellboy in a castle, you know what I mean? The Mike Mignola art is great, but the art by the other guy is a little bit too unsettling. Mike Mignola's is simplistic enough not to give you nightmares. The other guy is a little bit too much. But yeah, I have a whole bunch more Hellboy there. I have the Crooked Man graphic novel. I plan on getting to that, but that's not in there because I didn't read enough of it to have a lengthy opinion. I read some Judge Dredd as well by James Wagner. He's the guy that came up with the character. I think it was like in the maybe 90s, this run. But the particular one I liked is there's a series of issues where they're on a hot dog run is what they call it. So Judge Dredd is taking a bunch of rookies out into the Beyond Realm, whatever that's called, the like wasteland outside Mega City 1, as like a training exercise to like toughen them up. And that's just a great series of random little like stories and groups of people they encounter. That's just great. I just love that. There's a lot of other stuff that happens in that graphic novel. There's a little bit I didn't finish towards the end, but the hot dog run sticks out in my mind. I have some more Judge Dredd graphic novels there. I plan on getting around to them. I've seen the Dredd 3D movie, that's great. Haven't seen the Stallone one. I'm sure I'm missing out on not watching that. The Last Ronin I read one issue of, right? And the reason why I read The Last Ronin is because I thought it was going to be like the original Ninja Turtles run where it was graphic and violent, which it is, right? But the thing is, it's happening to the turtles. They're all dying off, and it's kind of hard. I don't want that to happen to my childhood characters. I don't want to watch them all die. And when the Last Ronin himself is fighting in the issue that I read, it's all robots, so it's like bloodless. It's like, oh come on, I thought we were getting back to the original shit here, but I've only read one issue, and just the trauma of all the characters dying, I couldn't handle it, so I'm sure I'll get it back around to that. Last shout out that I'm going to give honorable mention is League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. I read the first like 6 issues of this last year and wasn't a fan. It was too slow. It was just establishing all the characters. I didn't get into it, and then the next like maybe 8 issues I read, it's like doing War of the Worlds. I really like that. It's like all royalty free like literature characters forming Avengers. So you have like the Invisible Man, you have Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, you have the main girl from Dracula, you have Alan Quatermain, Captain Nemo I think is his name. But yeah, it was fun. I kind of want to read more, but also I don't know. Maybe I also have From Hell there. I want to kind of get into From Hell because I like Gotham by Gaslight. I like the Victorian London setting. I suppose they reference Jack the Ripper in League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, so that's Alan Moore referencing his own comic book. But yeah, that's it. That's all the comics I've read this year in order of worst to best. Clickbait. I hope you disagree with me and post a comment about it, my guy. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe. I might do one of these for movies as well. Who knows? If you like and subscribe, I will. Thanks for watching.